the introduction of the lesson, we're going to patch the beat and model the song for students. That's a mighty pretty motion, dee-dee-dee. That's a mighty pretty motion, dee-dee-dee. That's a mighty pretty motion, dee-dee-dee. Rise, sugar, rise. Next, we're going to teach students the repetitive dee-dee-dee phrase of the song and then have them sing it within the structure of the music. We're going to use echo technique here. So we will introduce the beat using body percussion. We will say echo, and then we will have students echo back the phrase we just sang. Introduce the beat, cue students to join you. Echo. Dee-dee-dee. Dee-dee-dee. Once students can accurately perform the pitch and rhythm of the words, we're then going to have them sing it within the structure of the music, and we will conduct them here. We will say my part and your part. You may wish to be the student in this activity. We're going to start at the beat and have students join us holding the beat. That's a mighty pretty motion. That's a mighty pretty motion. That's a mighty pretty motion. Rise, sugar, rise. In lesson activity 1, we're going to have students improvise some movements to accompany the music. This lesson is clearly explained in the lesson plan, so I'll just demonstrate some examples of small and large movements. That's a mighty pretty motion, dee-dee-dee. That's a mighty pretty motion, dee-dee-dee. That's a mighty pretty motion, dee-dee-dee. Rise, sugar, rise. That's a mighty pretty motion, dee-dee-dee. That's a mighty pretty motion, dee-dee-dee. That's a mighty pretty motion, dee-dee-dee. Rise, sugar, rise. In lesson activity 2, we're going to teach students the remaining phrases of the song. In the lesson plan, it says that we can teach it using echo technique, and that's fine. However, the students should now have heard the song many times, particularly throughout lesson activity 1. So you may wish to just conduct them singing this, and you could gradually introduce the remaining 2 phrases, just like we did in the introduction with the dee-dee-dee phrase. In lesson activity 4, students are going to accompany the song using untuned percussion. Before we talk about the lesson activity, let's first have a look at some of the common instruments used in the primary music classroom. I want to stress the importance of demonstrating and encouraging your students to use correct performing technique. So I'll go through these instruments, name them, and demonstrate correct technique. We have a kabasa. We want to put the kabasa into the palm of the hand, and we're going to twist the handle to produce our sound. A slightly tense wrist will generally produce a more rhythmic performance. We have some go-go bells here. Another common instrument in primary school is the cowbell. Generally, we play these instruments with either a rubber-headed mallet or a fabric-headed mallet. And the best way to figure out what mallet head to use is to perform the instrument, and if you enjoy the sound of it and if you think that it's suitable for the work you're about to perform, then it's the right mallet for you. We have a 2-tone block here, and another common instrument in primary music is the woodblock, which is a rectangular instrument with a slit in it. We're going to perform this instrument with a wooden-headed mallet. Sometimes they're also performed with a rubber-headed mallet.
We want to encourage students to find the sweet spot on the instrument. So for instance, that's not a very musical sound. This, however, is. We have a triangle here, and we want to hold the triangle with the loop. Generally, we want to hit the triangle either at the opposite side of the break in the bar or at the bottom of the instrument to create a more complex sound. When we have an egg shaker, we generally want to perform it with a horizontal action and a slightly tense wrist for rhythmic accuracy. With our claves, we want to pinch the instrument between our thumb and index and then lay it on the palm of the hand with a gap between the instrument and the palm. So we're creating a little resonance chamber, and then we're going to hit the instrument with the other stick. Of course, we all know the tambourine. Students can shake it, or students can either hit it with the fingertips or the flat of the hand. Again, they need to find that nice sweet spot on the instrument. And our last instrument today is the frame drum. Again, either the fingertips or the flat of the hand, and students need to find that place on the instrument that sounds nice. So how are we going to use these instruments in our lesson? Well, we're going to use a particular process. First of all, we want to use body percussion that emulates the performing technique of the instrument to scaffold their ability to play it. So I've chosen to use the woodblock for the first part of lesson activity 1. And because we're going to perform the instrument with this technique, I'm going to use this body percussion action which the students will hold on their bodies. So I'm going to introduce the beat using the body percussion. I'm then going to model the instrument while the students are performing the beat. Then I'll pass the instrument to one of the students who will take up the role of the performer. And then I'll section off half the class. We'll start up the beat together, sing the song through. I'll layer them out and then come back and layer out the group that was performing the body percussion pattern. When we go to the second part of lesson activity 4, we're going to be introducing a rhythmic ostinato to accompany the song. A rhythmic ostinato is a repeated rhythmic pattern. It's just a fancy word for repeated rhythmic pattern. Today I'm going to use a tambourine to perform the instrument, so we're going to use this body percussion because it's appropriate to the performing of the instrument. And we're going to use some words to help students' performance of the rhythms, and those words are going to be mighty pretty motion, mighty pretty motion. Again, students will pick up the rhythmic ostinato and perform it throughout the entire activity. While they're doing that, while they're holding the rhythmic ostinato, I'm going to pick up the tambourine, model the technique, and pass it on to one of the students who will take up that role. Then I'm going to section off half the class. We're going to start up the beat together, sing the song through. I will layer them out, and then finally come back and layer out the rhythmic ostinato group. We can perform simple 2- and 3-note melodic ostinatos to accompany the song in this lesson as working beyond activities. A melodic ostinato is a musical term which means a repeated melodic pattern. We can perform these patterns using either a xylophone, metallophone or glockenspiel, and these instruments are the most common tune percussion instruments found in primary music education. There's a couple of things that are really great about these instruments. The first one is that the keys have the letter names on them to help students navigate the instrument. The other one is that these keys can be removed to simplify the performing of the instrument, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to remove all the keys except for B and C. Make sure that you remove the keys by lifting them vertically on the instrument to look after the instrument, to not damage the instrument. Students can take turns improvising while the class sings the song. And to support their improvisation, we can have them just use the beat as their rhythmic material. Here's an example. That's a mighty pretty motion, dee-dee-dee. That's a mighty pretty motion, dee-dee-dee. That's a mighty pretty motion, dee-dee-dee. Rise, sugar, rise. We can add an extra key to our performance, and we can add a D. Students again can come out and take turns. Of course, it's getting more complex. They can either perform or improvise to the beat, or we can have them use a rhythmic ostinato. So they could perform, they could improvise to the rhythm, mighty pretty motion. You may want them to body percussion that first, mighty pretty motion, as a class, to scaffold, and then, of course, have them come up and take turns. Here's an example. That's a mighty pretty motion, dee-dee-dee. That's a mighty pretty motion, dee-dee-dee. That's a mighty pretty motion, dee-dee-dee. Rise, sugar, rise.